Mr. Chair, Trevor Mallard has just shown the weakness of his argument in arguing that the Minister has unbridled powers, and he's done that by the very example that he has brought up, in that the Minister is going to demolish an historic building. Well, leaving aside the fact that there are very few historic buildings left in Auckland anyway after 9 years of a Labour government, just think about it. Just think about the circumstances under which a minister wanting the best for a Rugby World Cup would demolish an historic building. Is that an argument that carries any weight at all? Is that an argument that in the wildest realm of possibility holds any kind of weight? I mean, we just need to go through the scenario. Here we are, 2 days out, and here's my scenario. Here's my scenario, Trevor Mallard. Here we are, 2 days out from the Rugby World Cup. There is a match on, and somehow somebody walks into the boardroom and says, we haven't stopped such and such a road, or some real example. So we'll use road stopping. We've got 50,000 people coming to watch the game and we haven't stopped a road. What are we going to do about it? Because there might be some bollards. And so under the legislation as proposed, what would happen is that a decision is made, we can get by without it. But actually, it is not the panel of judges and commissioners who have to wear the consequences of that decision. The people that have to wear the consequences of that decision are in fact the government. Now, we have to ask ourselves, do we want appointed people or do we want elected people making these big critical decisions? And that, I would suggest to the Minister opposite, is absolutely the nub of the argument here, because I would also argue that there is no unbridled, unfettered power as described by Trevor Mallard in this bill. In fact, if Trevor Mallard had decided to take a calm view at Clause 4 of this bill, he would have seen that rather than having unbridled powers to demolish historic buildings, in fact there are a number of protections described in Part 4 of this bill for the urgent powers given to the Minister. It's also worth noting, just while I'm at it, that the Select Committee did not recommend any significant changes to this power, nor did the Labour members on the committee choose to put in a minority report. That is very telling. Mr. Chair, what that says to us is that the committee, considering this bill, was happy with the provisions in this bill, and it was just Trevor Mallard, it was just the ex-Minister for the Rugby World Cup who was unhappy with this provision. And even then, the ex-Minister for the Rugby World Cup, Trevor Mallard, did have the opportunity to put in a minority report. In fact, it was discussed within the Select Committee, and did he? He did not. Trevor Mallard was asked the question, you can put in a minority report on this issue that concerns you so much. Do you want to do that, Trevor Mallard? I asked the member in Select Committee. The answer was no. I do not wish to put in a minority report. It was up to him to put it in. He declined not to do so. Mr. Chairman, this issue around Clause 4 of the bill is merely Labour saying, I can't have what I want, and so therefore New Zealand can't have it either. If the Labour members on this committee really valued democracy, they would have taken the opportunity given to them to put in a special order, to put in a minority report, and have their view. But they decided not to do that. Mr. Chair, I think that is particularly telling. And just in reference to Part 4 of this bill, I think the only thing that the people of New Zealand care about tonight is that the government supports the Rugby World Cup bill. That is what people are seeing. They are seeing the government fully behind this bill because they understand, Mr Chair, because the people of New Zealand understand that this government fully supports the Rugby World Cup, not just for the big games, but for the tournament and the opportunities that are going to be there for all of us throughout New Zealand. And what about Labour? They are filibustering this bill. Labour are filibustering this bill on the Rugby World Cup because they do not want it to be a success. That is very telling. Speech after speech after speech, they are pulling holes in this bill, which in the Select Committee, by the way, Mr Chair, we were in full agreement with, and I do wish members of the committee, not just the ring-ins, would stand up to have a view on this, because I have to say that throughout the course of the Select Committee consideration of this bill, there was good consideration and broad agreement of this bill, but no. Once the ex-Minister of the Rugby World Cup, Trevor Mallard, got hold of it, everything has gone downhill and the Select Committee members have been taken down a path of filibustering this bill. And I'll tell you the other thing that people in New Zealand are thankful for tonight, and that is Prime Minister John Key has saved the film industry for New Zealand. Now, that is a great success for New Zealand. So that is two things that this government is achieving for New Zealand: the Rugby World Cup and the New Zealand film industry. Mr Chair, this government is focused on success for New Zealand. The Hobbit is one part of that. No thanks to the unions, no thanks to Helen Kelly, no thanks to the Labour Party, no thanks to the Labour Party, and the other one is the New Zealand Rugby World Cup, which, thanks to this government and the hard work of those government members of the Government Administration Committee, is going to be a raging success, despite the poor efforts of Trevor Mallard.
Mr Chair.